I also sort of related to what we've been talking about is maybe a little bit of the reverse in which the child is taking responsibility or caring for their elderly parents. And they could be boomers, or they could be Gen X children now taking responsibility for their elderly parents. And of course, I probably don't need to say this, but the classic scenario is it's the oldest daughter. The oldest daughter
Mhm.
is doing all the work, taking care of the parents. Not always, but often enough that it's probably an accurate stereotype. And I'm wondering if the experiences and the way younger generations were raised or are being raised might affect that stereotype.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is interesting because you're absolutely right. I mean, unfortunately, the oldest female has always had that responsibility, right? That responsibility of mothering and being the second mother. I mean, it will be interesting to see because people have less and less kids. So there's
Yeah.
less of those dynamics that people have to negotiate. But yeah, I think that for some people there's that feeling of what is fair and fairness. And I think that as the generations have gone along, as Madison said, as we tried to like figure out what are the cycles, how do we break this cycle? Some of this is if you felt like things were unfair in your family, then you're going to be hyper aware of what is fair.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
a lot of these things they are about the generation. It's about when the time in which you were born and all of that. But there's also what are the things that happened in your family and how did you interpret those things
Sure.
and how did that impact you? But I do think that it'll be interesting to see if it still lands to the oldest female, or if as the generations go along, they do change it up a bit, or
Well,
there
I
isn't that.
yeah.
But
I mean, I'm thinking about maybe starting with millennials, the responsibilities related to childcare and, just running a household. They seem to be doing a better job, or at least trying, or being more conscious about making it more equitable so that all of the work of the household doesn't land on the mother,
mhm,
which was traditional, because traditionally the mother didn't work. And so that made sense. But now most women do work. So it doesn't necessarily make sense. And just maybe having that more even distribution might result in the sons stepping up and taking care of their own parents instead of the daughter in law taking care of the son's
mhm,
parents, which we see that a lot too.
yeah, yeah,
If you don't have an oldest daughter, well, then you're going to marry one and she's going to
mhm,
be your oldest daughter.
Maybe a better equitable division of labor over long term will eventually equate to a better equitable division of emotional labor
yes,
Yes,
over the
exactly. Well,
generations.
that would be
absolutely,
nice too.
yes,
I know.
That would be good. That would be good.
yeah.
One can only hope.
But the problem is that what we know about men and women and being able to study brain sciences is that some of this stuff is a bit, it's yes, it's
Yeah,
generational, but it's innate. And
it's
women are
it's evolutionary. Yeah.
women are always going to be more with the emotional labor. And I think that's why it falls to the oldest daughter of the women because they're the ones thinking about these things. I just feel like
Mhm,
a lot of the men, it's not meant to be, they don't intend to be, but they're just not thinking about how this is
mhm,
impacting, the family, because that's what we're constantly thinking about, right? Is like, how
mhm.
does all this impact other people?
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I mean, we've evolved over many, many hundreds of thousands of years to be the way we are,
Yeah.
and we can't undo that in a couple of generations.